Oh, what is going on? Monday, what a wild Monday in the market. So overnight, I'm sure you heard everything that's going on, right? The DOJ has the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, under investigation, supposedly because of illegal use of funding for headquarter renovations. However, Jerome Powell came out last night swinging, said, I'm not backing down. This has nothing to do with renovations because we have been very transparent on that. This all has to do with the president trying to force me to reduce rates. Now, here's what's dangerous about that. The Fed is an independent operation. I know it's called the Fed, but they're not run or they're not under the jurisdiction really under the US government, right? They operate autonomously and they set rates based on market conditions and all these different data points that I'm sure the president doesn't even have access to. And so what Donald Trump wants them to do is cut rates and can cut them fast, right? And so when this happened overnight, the market did fall down initially and reacted, like you would expect it to. Like, man, this is crazy news. We should pull back. But now, as you can see on this 1 hour chart, after this first drop down in the market, and pre-market, we've been riding this trend line and been very, very bullish today. And here's what my assessment of this is. It's like when rates are cut and rates are lower, borrowing money is cheaper. And what typically happens is rich people, and most people should be doing this, when you can borrow money, let's say you can borrow money at a 0% interest rate or a 1% interest rate, but then you know that things like gold is up 30% or the stock market's up 15, 16%. What you do is you borrow that money cheaply and you use other people's money to invest in assets that are appreciating. That's how people make money when interest rates are lowered. So this is what I'm expecting, or this is why I think that the market is pumping because people are looking at it like, okay, now we're going to have free money, we're going to have cheap money to where we can actually put this in the market. Then you couple that with the cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. Again, if you can borrow money or use credit cards or liquidate credit cards at 10%, but you know you can put it into an asset class that's going to grow at 30, 40%, this is how you make money with other people's money. So that's why I think the market is actually bullish on today. So here we are. We just got above our all-time high of 69.78 on SPX, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if we're going to break out and retest, or if we're going to break out and just continue running and try to run this thing up to 7,000, which is that next psychological level. Not sure. So I'm just going to be watching the charts here. For me to go bullish, I want to break out, then a retest, and then break out. So what that looks like is this is what happened on the chart today. So let's go down to, I want to say the 30 minute. Mhm. Maybe it was the daily that we called this out. Okay, the daily. So this is what that means. You see this? This was resistance for a while. Then we broke out of that resistance. Then we retested it. And now this is the retest break. The second break is usually the strongest break. As you can see, the first one we got up here and pulled back down. Now we got our second breakout after this retest of this level. And this thing is pushed up 10 points above that first breakout. So I like to wait for the breakout, retest, and then breakout. So same thing applies here. I want to see, do we break out above the 69.79 and then retest and continue up, or do we break out, lose this and pull back down? And that would look like this: break out, lose it, and then we pull back down. So this is what I don't want to get caught in. I don't want to break out here and jump in this thing and then we pull down and my stop loss hits, right? I want to break out, retest, and then bounce. That's when I'll take that. I also said that hey, I wanted to come back and revisit Hood because that was one of the trades that I got in a little too early and then look what happens here. I expected this to happen. I went back and recharted again, saw the double bottom, still have my trend line here. Let's drop down to the 1 hour so the trend line looks a little more clean. Still have my trend line here. Now, originally, remember, I jumped in a little early back here before it broke out, and so I got stopped out. I saw and I said, look, this thing is going to break back out. So I waited. This happened. Then we got our retest here. And here's the retest. And once that happened, I repositioned on this and I got my money back and some on Hood. I'll post those screenshots. I don't know. I'll do it on the video once I do my editing. And again, this is raw. Look, this is raw. I don't have a big old studio. I don't have people helping me with all this stuff. This is just raw in your face. This is how I trade. All right. I'm not an 8K guy when it comes to cameras and all that stuff. I don't care about that. I'm just giving you technical analysis. All right. This is real deal. So waited for this breakout bounce, and then I did get in this and get some of my money back. Also, still like this on Hood. Now we have this flagpole forming, this right here. this right here. So out of this breakout, it looks like we also have a bull flag. If you guys do not know what a bull flag looks like, let's pull up a bull flag, right? Bull flag. See, this is what we're seeing right now, kind of happening on Hood. We have this strong uptrend, a little bit breakout. Then we have some consolidation in, right? We have an uptrend. Then we have a little bit of consolidation here. So this may bust out of here to be a bull flag. Now, this is what I'll wait for. I want to see a breakout of this. That's one confirmation. Well, actually, the flag forming is the first confirmation. Breaking out of this is two confirmations. Breaking above a breaker structure, which is like a structural change in market structure, is three confirmation. Then you see this red line here. This is the VWAP. If we get above all of those, that's four confirmations that this bull flag is going to play out. So that's what I'm going to wait for, is for all those things to happen. And then I expect it to do something like this number. So I may actually reposition again in Hood and get a little more money out of it. All right. So that's what I see there. Let's look at some other cool things in the market. I think we talked about NVIDIA. I think I said that I still like what NVIDIA is looking like. And see, we have this happening here. We have this downtrend on NVIDIA, right? I love these falling wedges, and we have a slight breakout. Now, a lot of people will get caught in jumping in right here, and then you see that baby wick. You can barely see that wick right there above this supply zone. You would break out here thinking it's going to run, get caught in that wick and get pulled back down. And that's where a lot of people will get stopped out. So what we want to do, again, we want to wait for it to do something like this and then come back down and retest and then get us our second bounce to push back up. That's what we want to wait for. And yes, I know we broke out here this morning. This is what the 8:30 right here, right? We did run up a little bit from this 8:30 and all this, but that's cool. I don't care about that. I don't want to diddle in the middle. This was some good money for someone. That's just not how I trade. I want confirmations. This is one. We're going to break out of this downtrend. That's one. We're going to break above the VWAP. That's two. We're going to break outside of the supply zone, then retest before we jump out again. That's three confirmations. So that's what I want to see. Now, yeah, maybe we missed this here, but all this happened in pre-market. I didn't catch this. So this was in pre-market. So now I gotta wait for things to happen when I'm seeing it. All right. And that's what I would do on there. Once we do this retest and break, I'd probably take like a 190 call. That should put us well into the money if it does play out. Now, the other side of that, you also have confirmations here. Rejection of the VWAP, rejection of the downtrend, rejection of the supply. So if that happens and we get a rejection of the supply, we can also pull back down here. I would say right around to 183, which is where that hammer started forming to push us up. So if this does reject, you can get a 3, 4 point move at least to this level here. And then if it falls back down, boom, you got your bounce here. And this is where I would close out before that double bottom forms. So that's what I would look for on NVIDIA. Let's look at Apple. So Apple's teasing quite a bit, right? This 260 call um, here on Apple. So you see how this thing, it broke out, retested, broke out, but we've still been moving a little sideways here on Apple. Now, this is what I would say on Apple. I like it. I do think Apple's going to continue to push up here. Let me do this so we can zoom a little more. The only thing I would be mindful of here is that we do have some of this consolidation kind of happening like this, right? And then like this. And what you don't want to do is get trapped into this being a major bear flag on Apple, right? So what we want to wait for on Apple, we don't want this to happen. Boom, 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 and then we have a bear flag. Haven't seen a bear flag? Let's look at that. We did a bull flag. Let's look at a bear flag. Oops, bear flag. Not now. Image. Let me say bear flag trading. Your stuff popping up here. All right. So what we don't want to happen is something like this. You see? So we go back to Apple. We have this trend happening like this. And then we have this consolidation happening, and we don't want this to be a continuation down after this little bit of consolidation. So this is what I would suggest on Apple. And yes, you may lose out on a little bit of money. I would suggest waiting until Apple again breaks out of this top here. That's one confirmation. That gets us above the VWAP. That's two confirmation. Break above the supply zone and retest, just like NVIDIA. That's our fourth confirmation. This is where we take the call. Breakout, retest of 264. 265, 270 call is what we take on Apple and push that thing out a couple of weeks to give it time to do what it's going to do. All right. Another thing is some of my indicators down here are showing that we're getting pretty close to this zone here that would pull us back on Apple too. So I would wait for those things to happen on Apple. Let's go look at Meta. Meta's been trading very, very strangely, right? We just haven't been able to get much action out of Meta in a while. So we're still consolidating here. I know this is these two. I would say 655 to 638 is really the consolidation zone here on Meta. This area right here is consolidation on Meta. Now, don't get me wrong, these are some good bounces. I would imagine if we go to the 4 hour, we wouldn't even see that intermediate one. So yeah, so this would be some good bounces here based on the 4 hour on Meta, but it hasn't really broken out like I expected it to get back to close that gap to I think about 700 or so is where the Meta gap was back in the day. So see how I like my falling wedges though? See this falling wedge? Right? We broke out here. We retested this here, hit the demand zone, broke out again, and it's been popping up there, but still consolidating pretty tough here. I want Meta to get back above like 685 or so we can start pushing back to the 700s. Until then, I'm not really touching it. Now, there are some good plays if you want to be a little more risky trader here and, catch a bounce here. Looks like this could potentially be another double bottom forming here. We got a bottom here. If this starts to play out, you can catch some bounces around 640 on Meta to push it back up. But I don't want this zone. I want to get back to the clear skies on Meta, right? I like this. I like this 685 running back up to 750, 760, 80 point move a lot better. So I'm being pretty patient on that because I don't like the sideways movement. All right, we talked about Bitcoin and Riot. So Bitcoin did get some breakout a little bit here. And this is what I mean about the breakout and retest. You see this? A lot of people will jump into this and get wicked out, right? I like to wait until we do something like this and this becomes support and push up to avoid those wicks. So let's drop down to the 1 hour, see what we're doing here. Looks like it could be a little cup forming and a handle potentially here. But again, I want to break out, retest. Back above 92,000, basically 500, retest and then push. That's what I like to see. So let's see what Riot has done based on Bitcoin's movement. Typically moves with Bitcoin. All right, so Riot here, we're still in our ascending wedge. We have not broken out of that yet. So we still have this ascending wedge happening here on Riot. So again, I'm not playing anything on this until we either break above this ascending wedge and retest with Bitcoin pushing up, or we lose this thing with Bitcoin falling down. Till then, I'm not touching anything here on Riot. So got to be very, very, very patient in this game, or you blow accounts. All right, we look like we're above 69.80 here. Let's see if we hold it and continue pushing up on SPX. Look at that thing. All right, we talked about what we had here. We're bullish as long as we're on this trend. Now, what do we do? Do we break out and retest, or do we break out and just continue pushing? So we're looking very, very bullish here. That's all I have today, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Peace.